All right, we're going to call a meeting order for August 17th. Madam Clerk, pledge, please.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Councilman Asbill.
Present.
Councilman Buddy.
Present.
Councilman Chatelain.
Present.
Councilman Johnston. Councilman Ricks.
Present.
Mayor Baudier.
Present.
Police Chief LaPree. Fire Chief St. Cyr. Finance Director Todd Turnion.
Present.
City Attorney Scott Stansberry. Myself, Carrie Hughes, as clerk, is present. Mayor's announcements.
We've been working in a city. We've been trying to get out and maybe and explore kind of some of the ways where Harahan, how it created and how it came forth, and trying to dig up some history on the city. And because what we like as we promote what Harahan has to offer and the great attributes that it has, is we want to start to create our story to tell. And so what we've done is we've worked with some international partners. We're working with the French Consul General. We're also working with Leary, Quebec, Canada, and we're working with the Japanese embassy in a town where the USS New Orleans is actually docked. And what we're doing is putting sister city programs together, because I dream pretty big as being a mayor, and why not dream international? And so we've just formed our first partnership, our first sister city partnership with Leary. It's a town very similar to ours, right next to a waterway, because we look for towns like us to form in the sister city program. And so I'd like to read the proclamation into record tonight. Whereas the Canadian province of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and state of Louisiana share an exceptional French historical and cultural heritage that they wish to maintain and develop. Whereas there are pre-existing friendly agreements between New Brunswick and Louisiana, such as the Declaration of the Sister Cityhood in 1977 and the Memorandum of Agreement between Canadian Maritime Provinces and the state of Louisiana in 1991, which was reviewed in 1994. Whereas in March 1719, Joseph Chauvin de Lery of Quebec, Canada, was awarded a concession of land on the Mississippi River in the area known as Cote de Chapatulas, and today known as the city of Harahan. Whereas there's growing interest among the citizens in developing joint initiatives with like communities, the city of Harahan, Louisiana, and Ville de Lery, Quebec, Canada, have confirmed that their intention to establish a sister city partnership to foster and support initiatives for the development of their respective communities. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Mayor Tim Baudier, do hereby proclaim that a sister city relationship between the city of Harahan and Ville de Lery will be mutually beneficial to each community, and therefore I endorse the establishment of the relationship under the guidelines set forth by both entities in the following attachment, dated this 17th day of August 2023, and affix my signature. And Madam Clerk will put this into record. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. You ready?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Special presentations. Jennifer Fuselier with Poster Weight in Nettleville. 2022 financial statement audit results.
Hello. I'm Jennifer Fuselier. I was the audit associate director on the engagement. I also have Amanda Strbeck here with me. She was the partner on the engagement. We did issue this report as Postal 8 Netterville, but I do just want to make the comment we are now Eisner Amper. PNN was acquired in May of 2022. 2023, sorry. So we completed the audit as of and for the year ended December 31st, 2022. All reports were issued and filed with the legislative auditor by the June 30th deadline. We did hold an exit meeting with management back in June where we went over all of the audit findings and reports in detail. So tonight I'll just give a brief summary of the reports that were issued in the audit findings. So we issued 4 separate reports: the financial statement audit report, the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance with government auditing standards, the report on internal control and compliance, which is required by the uniform guidance that's typically referred to as the single audit, And we also issued the Louisiana statewide agreed-upon procedures report. So I'll briefly summarize each of those. So your financial statement audit, we had issued an unmodified or a clean opinion, which is what you would want to see or you would expect to see. We evaluated all significant transactions, accounting estimates, and disclosures, noting all appeared reasonable. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management and had no disagreements with management. We did note one uncorrected misstatement. Management determined it was immaterial to the financial statements, and we agreed, so that misstatement was waived on. It was not recorded into the trial balance. As part of the financial statement audit, we also review and test internal controls and compliance with certain laws and regulations. So that's the second report that we issued. We did identify one payroll-related internal control deficiency and one instances of non-compliance related to the Budget Act. So for the payroll-related internal control deficiency, during our testing of a sample of transactions, we noted a few instances where certain employees were not paid at their approved pay rates due to an error into recording that into the payroll system. So some employees were not paid the correct pay rates at certain times during the year. For the Budget Act, we noted that actual expenditures exceeded budgeted expenditures by more than 5% for the sales tax fund, fire sales tax fund, and FEMA fund. So management was required to provide a response for both of those, which is included in the report, and they noted they've already put processes and procedures in place to correct those findings moving forward. The third report we issued was the report on internal control and compliance required by the uniform guidance. This is your single audit report. So since the city had over $750,000 of federal expenditures during the current year, they were required to have this separate single audit report on federal expenditures. So a schedule of expenditures of federal awards was prepared by management, which we reviewed. We determined that to be materially correct. We're required to test the major program, which for you all was FEMA. That made up 87% of your total federal award expenditures reported for 2022. So we performed separate procedures over the FEMA funds that were expended on Hurricane Ida. Management is still working with FEMA to still get some reimbursements in and collect the funding. On our procedures, we noted no instances of non-compliance with the FEMA funds, and we noted that internal controls over those compliance requirements were operating effectively. So we had no findings in our single audit report. The last report we issued was the Louisiana statewide agreed upon procedures. The legislative auditor issued these procedures several years back. The legislative auditor writes these procedures. We don't make these up. We can't edit them. So we've been doing this for several years. This year we did have a few exceptions noted with those. Again, management was required to provide a response, which got included and filed with the report submitted to the legislative auditor. Management acknowledged the findings and again put processes in place to address those. That was it for the report. Any questions?
No.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to thank management for their time. They were very, they helped us and we were able to issue timely, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Todd.
Approval of minutes. Reading of the minutes of the council meeting on July 20th, 2023.
Move to dispense.
I have a motion by Councilman Asbill to dispense. We'll open for public hearing. Anyone wanting to come forth? No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Chatelain. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Approval of the minutes of the council meeting on July 20th, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Buddy to approve. We'll now open for public hearing. Anyone want to come forth? No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Chatelain. All in favor?
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, those minutes are approved.
Communications. Reading of the minutes of the Board of Adjustment meeting on July 19th, 2023.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Asbill to dispense with the reading of the minutes. I'll open for public hearing. Anyone want to come and speak forth? No one coming forth. We'll close public hearing. We have a second by Councilman Ricks. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk?
Approval of the minutes of the Board of Adjustment meeting on July 19th, 2023.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Johnston. We'll now open for public hearing. Anyone come to speak for or against the minutes, the approval of the minutes from the adjustment meeting? No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. Can I have a second by Councilman Buddy? All in favor?
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, those minutes are approved.
Resolutions. The following resolution was proposed by Councilman Ricks. Proposed resolution number 2023-8, a resolution establishing a city vehicle use policy.
Okay, we'll now open for public hearing. Anyone want to come speak for or against?
We have an amendment proposed for that.
Okay.
It is this sheet, and it modifies Section 5 by deleting the Section 5 and supplementing it with this. And the reason I'm proposing the amendment is Section 5 deals with two topics, and they seem to not be clearly delineated within Section 5. So I proposed an amendment breaking it out so it's a little clearer, that you're dealing with maintenance and then you're separately dealing with reporting. It doesn't affect the overall purpose or intent of the ordinance.
Okay, so we'll close public hearing for the moment, and we'll discuss these amendments. We'll just close one, that way you can talk on it as amended. Any council discussion on the amendments?
I'm just getting them. I'm going to take a minute to read.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Madam Clerk, do you have these amendments? Could you read them? Just because it's lengthy,
Sure.
just so.
Read the book.
Section 5, Vehicle Maintenance and Reporting. Accidents including but not limited to damage to city-owned or leased vehicles, damage to third-party owned property, or injury to any persons, accidents. Section A, Reporting Accidents. Employees using city-owned or leased vehicles are responsible for reporting any and all accidents promptly to their department head or supervisor. The supervisor shall promptly notify both the mayor and the human resource director or other party designated by the mayor from time to time to report matters to the insurance company as needed. They'll be the responsible party. Elected officials using city-owned or leased vehicles are responsible for reporting any and all accidents promptly to both the mayor and the responsible party. The mayor shall promptly notify all city council members of said accidents as soon as reasonably possible. The responsible party shall notify the insurance company or companies as soon as reasonably possible for all reportable accidents. Section 2, Needed and Preventative Maintenance, which will go by maintenance moving forward, and inspections of city-owned or leased vehicles. Department heads, supervisors, and elected officials are responsible for coordinating maintenance and inspections of city-owned or leased vehicles. They or their direct reports are operating. Needed maintenance shall be reported to the mayor for mayor's approval before maintenance is performed. The mayor shall be the party that arranges and coordinates all maintenance. Section 3, the mayor may, from time to time and in writing, revise and amend this Section 5, vehicle and maintenance and reporting policy, subject to approval by resolution of the city council.
Okay. You guys want to discuss?
No discussion.
No, no discussion. All right, so we have a proposed amendment to Resolution 2023-8 proposed by Councilman Buddy. We'll open for public hearing on the amendment. No one will come and speak forth. We'll close public hearing. We have a second by Councilman Chatelain. All in favor on the amendment only.
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Amendment to proposed Resolution 2023-8 has been approved, Madam Clerk. Okay, now we'll open for public hearing on proposed Resolution 2023-8 as amended.
How you doing? Gary Hopkins with the Harahan Firefighters Association. I'm the president, also a city employee for 15 years. I would like to know, get a definition from the council, what exactly is the official city business definition? We would like to know if this is going to eliminate the use of, if we need to make a food run at a grocery store or go pick up lunch, because as this thing reads, it's not official city business. Are we going to not be allowed to do that? Are we not going to be allowed to participate in city events that aren't organized by the city, like St. Rita's Fall Fest, the Christmas Parade, or any of the cook-offs? Are we going to still be allowed to do washdowns at schools, at the elementary school? We do it for each one of them. It's not technically official city business. As we read it, we wouldn't be allowed to do that any further. Another section under no personal passengers, the clause affects the fire department directly. There are numerous times that we have firefighters that are no longer employees in Harahan, were employees, but still hang out, come talk to us. They respond to calls with us. Under this, they would no longer be allowed to do that. We also have operators that work for other departments that operate the trucks while we're inside fighting. That frees up a guy for us. You know, we're doing much better. We're progressing nicely. We're getting more manpower, but we're still short. That one extra guy sometimes helps. That they can dedicate unpaid in person to pump the trucks for us while we're actually fighting fire or handling a medical or something. Lastly, I'd also like to point out that as we read the resolution, the chief and the safety officer would no longer really need to have a take-home vehicle. If they're not allowed to access the vehicle to respond at any given time, because if they were doing personal business, they really don't need it. So does that mean that we would have to keep those vehicles at the firehouse, and then when they need it, have to respond to the firehouse to pick it up to respond? Because all that's going to do is delay more time.
Let me start to answer some of your questions.
I just have one more thing, Councilman.
Okay.
When it comes to having our incident commanders, which are our white shirts, the sooner they're on scene and watching, my butt is the one that's the other end of that fire hose. I like to know somebody's watching. Fire conditions are changing, building conditions are changing. We can't see that from the inside. If I don't have somebody out there doing it, technically we shouldn't even be making entry. But that's our job. So like, it needs to be a coordinated effort. And because of these reasons, Harahan Firefighter Association, our members, we are against this resolution. Thank you.
Well, let me just say something. So I put this resolution together to stop abuse of city funds and city vehicles. At no point is this resolution put together to hinder the efforts of the fire department or any other department, whether it's a storm-related, fire-related, anything like this. It is a guideline, simply a guideline. Any one of us who would inhibit the use of these vehicles to get to a fire or an emergency or take somebody with them to make sure that they're responding is absolutely going to be allowed. We wouldn't stop it, especially if it was our own house. I mean, it's a guideline. So it's for us to have controls that the city funds are not being just wasted by somebody driving off to Wonderland in a city vehicle. That's pretty much what it boils down to. So the city vehicles will be marked within 60 days, and I don't think that's asking too much. That's plenty of time. And so all these things are guidelines to protect city dollars and the liability. Because whether everybody in this room understands it or not, if any one of our employees, anyone, gets in a major wreck anywhere and kills somebody, it could just demolish the city and the way it runs because of the financial problems there, okay? But it is a guideline.
I'd like to add that line 17 says the purpose of these vehicles is for official business and tasks directly related to city operations. So when you guys go to a fair to present the fire department, you're being paid, you got a city vehicle, it is city business. It's something that the fire department and the mayor have consented to use city assets for. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, as to people who don't work for the city, who are at the fire department, who volunteer to go to a fire, number one, it's city operations, but it raises the question in my mind that we need a policy for that, and our insurance company has to know, and we can do this, but the insurance company has to know that from time to time, we have volunteers assisting our fire department, and we got to make sure that any liability resulting from their actions or injuries to them are covered, because they would not be covered under our workman's comp. So we're exposing the city to possibly something that's uninsured. So I think if y'all could jot down what you said earlier, we want to make sure that we cover all of that, not prohibit any of it. So again, as I read it, if it's city operations, if you guys are on the payroll, if you're doing it with consent, I don't.
Even for those that aren't on payroll.
If you're taking them to a fire, that's city business. If they're going to fight the fire, that's certainly city business. But my point also is that maybe we could jot down a policy for this, and then we take that policy, and the mayor can take it to our insurers and say, we need to be covered for this.
Right.
If any of these volunteers are hurt, the city's got exposure, rightfully so. We need to make sure we're insured. Right now, I'm not sure we're insured. But we can be.
On our vehicle policy, we most certainly are.
Yeah, but are we insured for the people who are going to the fire and helping you along?
That would be an issue. That's why I try to carry most of those people. I'd like to put them on part-time.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the answer.
all we're saying is,
Put them on a part-time basis, and then they cover my workers' comp.
with today's lawsuit frenzy, you know, we have to be very careful. I mean, we're fiscally responsible for the well-being of the city.
So how would you propose that this resolution would affect myself and my position?
It would apply.
I mean, it would apply,
You
but, you
use
know,
the vehicle for official business.
For official
Oh,
business, that
could
means
you
that when I'm
stand-
off
could-
duty.
Could you stand,
Sure.
please?
So when I'm off duty, I park the vehicle at the firehouse and I go home in my personal vehicle.
No. We're not trying to inhibit, but, you know, we don't want you driving to
It states-
Wyoming.
It states in the resolution that the vehicle would be parked in the designated parking area.
Well, we're putting guidelines in place. We're not trying to inhibit your take-home vehicle. You live just a few blocks away. It's not to inhibit this. It's to
Well, most
enforce.
certainly will inhibit it, Councilman, because what you're saying is, I have to park the thing in the designated area. That most certainly can't be my driveway.
Well, it most certainly could,
It
Doc.
could be your
Well,
driveway.
no,
if you're
because
given
when this
permission-
policy goes into place, I'm gonna have to now buy a vehicle.
No,
A
you're not.
personal
No, you're not.
vehicle, I don't have a personal vehicle now. And I haven't needed one for 27 years, as I've been issued a vehicle, right? I use it personally. I use it to bring my kids to school sometimes. I go to their ball games in it. I'm in that vehicle.
If you're on
If a
call
call comes
24
out-
hours a day and you're issued a company vehicle, a city vehicle, and the mayor's consenting to your taking it home
Right.
because you're on call 24 hours a day,
Right.
then I don't see any conflict with you taking the vehicle home.
So when I go
But
to a
it's-
ball game at the girls softball complex,
I'm going to put to you again, if you're on call 24 hours a day, which I believe you are,
right?
then you need to be in a vehicle where you can respond to a fire. And the city's provided you with that vehicle. So I think that's,
This would remove me from that vehicle a lot of times, because there's a lot of times that my wife and I go separate directions with children. I can't put any of my kids in the vehicle.
well, that's a very
Well,
common...
hold on. Let me say this. Are we covered under your policy for passengers?
Yes,
Okay,
100%.
okay,
But we're also covered under the city policy.
right.
Anybody hurt in this vehicle can sue the city for any, I mean, if they're a non-employee in a city-owned vehicle and it's involved in an accident and they're injured, the non-employee, the city is going to be 100% liable.
I'm just
They could be
saying
an-
that this
They could be an
resolution,
employee, the city's still gonna be in
this
trouble.
resolution, as it reads, will take me out of the loop for responding to a lot of calls on nights, weekends, holidays.
No, it won't.
Sure will, 100%.
Only if you refuse the car that you're allowed to take home.
So I'm gonna chime in here. I haven't had a chance to yet. I'm gonna, I told Mike this earlier, and I'll say it in public. I think this is a poorly written and poorly researched resolution all around. And I'll just go through a couple of the things that I've got notes taken on. I guess my first question is, where is this in policy intended to go? Is this intended to be part of the personnel policy? Because it sounds like we're requiring acknowledgements to be signed and things like that. If it is, then it can't be done by ordinance or resolution. It's got to be done by ordinance. From what I'm hearing from the fire department, the purpose of the ordinance, it says, is to preserve the integrity operations. It is going to hurt the integrity operations. I understand Todd's point is, if he is at by the letter of this ordinance or this resolution, if he is at a basketball game at Pontiff Playground with his daughters, he cannot take his city vehicle. And I would not expect him to respond back and leave his daughter's game in his personal vehicle.
I won't, because then the liability responding to a call is on me and my family. If I'm responding to a call in my personal vehicle and getting in an accident, then that's on me.
So if
The other
And my family takes that risk. I won't do it. I will not respond from my house to the firehouse to pick up a vehicle in my personal vehicle.
So let me ask you this. If you're at a game, and this is an example, if you're at a game at the complex.
Right.
And you get a fire call, you would leave your family there with someone
No.
and respond to the call?
I would, most certainly. There's other
So-
teammates and
Yeah, no, I
friends
understand.
that I would
Trust
leave.
our
and-
people, yeah.
Right.
And my other question is, so would you leave that complex with your kids in the car to respond to a call?
I have. If we're leaving at the time of a call,
Okay.
have I responded to calls with my kids in the car? Absolutely,
Yeah, no,
100%. I've been on the way to bring them to school and turned around and responded to a call. Most certainly in a safe manner,
Excuse, Tom?
obeying most
Excuse tardy?
no.
Some of the other things I've written down is we've got to consider the chief has had this vehicle for 27 years. And these are just things I'm bringing up. That I think we need to more fully evaluate before we jump the gun on this thing, is the chief has had this vehicle, like you said, for 27 years at this point. We've got to consider whether this is reducing compensation.
Okay,
A
well-
lot of companies view vehicles as a perk of the job, and if it's removing compensation, then that's a civil service issue that we're going to have to get a civil service opinion.
We're not
And this does-
removing compensation by use of the vehicle in a professional level. We're not even trying to restrict the fire chief's personal use of the
Oh,
vehicle
I
as
disagree
he's
completely.
responding to calls. However, it is simply a guideline that is enforceable if somebody decides to take our car that the city owns, that the people pay for the gas, the insurance, and everything else that they're well-deserved, and drive from here to Texas to go to Six Flags.
I
It's simply a
Mike,
resolution to protect
understand.
us.
I understand what
So-
your intention may be, but as it's written, as I read it, I may be able to stop at the gas station for fuel, but as I'm driving by, I better not stop at it to grab a soft drink, because that would be personal use. Going to the ball game for my daughter would be personal use.
Do you have another supervisor on staff?
I have a captain on shift, sure.
Okay. Does the captain able to go to a fire
Sure, absolutely,
Okay.
100%.
and give you enough time to collect your stuff and get there?
Mike.
I'm asking a
Time is
question.
of the essence.
I understand
We
that.
respond with a third of what NFPA 1710 says that we should respond to.
I understand that.
Everybody that's there makes a big difference.
And my,
Having an incident commander on scene as close to the beginning of that scene as possible is integral.
and if you're 15 or 20 minutes away, they're not waiting for you.
No, they're gonna do
They're
what they
going-
have to
they're
do.
gonna
and
do what they
There will
have
be
to do.
times that happens. There's not 100%.
Do you
There's-
think that anybody here is trying to hinder the performance of the fire department?
By reading that, I would hope not, Councilman,
Okay.
but by reading this resolution, it most certainly does.
This, like I said, it's a guideline. Nobody in here is
It
going to
does,
push.
but it's not a guideline because it has specific language that talks about disciplinary action.
Yeah,
So that's serious to me. That's my career. That's my job. If you're going to be taking disciplinary action because I'm not following this guideline, then it's not just a guideline. That's a mandate.
well,
So I've got-
then we can adjust our guideline, you know what I mean?
Well,
Or
I would
adjust
hope
the
that there
resolution.
would be some amendments offered, and that's what we're here to talk about.
That's right.
That's what we're here to ask you, is to offer some amendments.
That is
would-
absolutely correct, but there needs to be a vehicle policy for this city in place.
I have zero issue.
Whether
with
it's
the vehicle
23
policy.
years.
I just don't want you to inhibit or hinder our operations and how we do things now.
The vehicle policy for the fire department is gonna be different than the maintenance, different than anyone at City Hall, different than they're all gonna have a different policy. Because they all have different
Correct.
guidelines, and I think we all agree to that.
But some of the general guidelines aren't going to change.
Agree.
Correct. Some of the general
Some of-
guidelines are not.
but-
And,
but-
and that's why we're having this conversation.
Somebody
got
is
several
given
comments.
a personal, a city-owned vehicle, and they're authorized to take it home. If and you've been authorized, I'm sure.
Sure.
It hasn't been spoken. So all the mayor has to do is authorize you to
Well, I've had.
operate the vehicle
I've had
and
almost
take it home.
every mayor that I've ever worked for absolutely outright tell me, and Councilman Johnson, I worked for him for 8 years, outright told me that, hey, chief, if you're within an hour and a half from here, even if you're going fishing, I want you in that vehicle so that if you get something, or a plane crashes, or something big happens, you can get yourself back. And that's just the way it's always been with every mayor.
So, going through a few more of my concerns here, I see that we've exempted the police department from this policy, and nothing against you, chief, but if we're going to have a policy that applies to city-owned vehicles, I think it needs to apply.
Well, let
We
me
can't-
say this, I'm an elected official.
I understand that,
I
Chief.
will make the policy for the Harahan Police Department.
understand that,
I'm
Chief.
not an appointed position.
Chief.
I'm an elected
And
official.
I agree with you, Chief, and the mayor is the elected official for the city.
Guys.
And he should control the policy of the vehicles, that we
I-
shouldn't write an ordinance or resolution dictating on how we should handle vehicles. He's on 24/7, the chief's on 20, you're on 24/7. He needs his vehicle, just like all department heads. Gary is on 24/7, he is the department director of maintenance. The mayor should make the call. We shouldn't be tying anybody's hand, the mayor's hand, anybody else with resolution.
Guys,
I'm totally against, I think this is ridiculous that we introduced this. 103 years old the city is. This is the first time I've seen something like this introduced in my 30 years as an elected official in the city of Harahan. This is ridiculous.
Well,
So
let me
I
just
agree with
say,
I agree with Mr. Johnson that this, I don't like the policy and I won't be voting for it, but, I mean, I would say that we need to look at Attorney General Opinion 20-0142 that was issued by Attorney General Jeff Landry a couple years ago that says that the city can absolutely set personal limits on police vehicles. And if we're gonna do this citywide, then we need to do it citywide. I don't want to do it. I really don't, to be honest.
I'll let it leave like it is. The mayor and the chief handle your cars, your vehicles.
So,
Do you want to leave it the way it is, where, wait, let me finish
Can
my statement.
can neighboring, then they brought up the other questions, if neighboring departments can operate. So you got a firefighter, you're saying operate, vehicle is a pretty broad term, operate's a pretty broad term. So if you're saying operate, can they come and operate the pump while the other guys are inside the fire? That's a question I've got. Talk about valid driver's license. Do we need more than a valid driver's license for some of these city vehicles? Do we need a big equipment license, forklift license, and stuff like that? I would
like-
think we need to write that in there. Except in cases, in Section 3, it talks about the only passengers are allowed are passengers who are also city employees on official business. And I think this straps down everybody who has a city vehicle in the city, that, you know, if you've got a fire chief visiting from another town, or if you've got a mayor from another town visiting, you can't be in the vehicle. They got to ride behind you in a separate vehicle. Vehicle storage was brought up. And then finally, over in non-compliance, we've got, it's completely unenforceable, to be quite honest with you. In a situation involving elected officials, the city council shall decide any disciplinary action. This city council cannot discipline any other elected official The mayor cannot discipline any other elected official. It's just not, it can't happen. The only people who can discipline an elected official are the court of law and the ethics board. That's
I'm
it.
sorry, say
And the
that
ethics
again,
board,
please?
and the ethics
Court of
board
law,
only
ethics
matters if you're
board.
running for office again.
And the people, if you don't vote for us again.
Yeah, and the people, they can just vote us out of office. In a situation involving non-elected officials, the mayor shall decide any disciplinary actions. That's circumventing, to me, it's circumventing the civil service authority, circumventing the current personnel policies we have in place. And oh, by the way, all of this, since it affects a civil servant, should have been passed before the Civil Service Board, before it came to us. I'm in favor of setting some parameters around city vehicles. I really am. I don't think this is it. I think it needs to be done by ordinance so that it can have bigger teeth. Because right now, the mayor can see this, he can go back to his office, he can sign it, and then he can rip it up and say, I'm not enforcing it. I just think we need to do something better than what this is. Thank you.
Well, my intent is that I'm trying to protect the citizens in this city. And although it's been here for 103 years, there's more lawyers per capita in Louisiana than any other state in the USA. So I'm just saying that, you know, from my point is that, you know, including him, but, and I asked you to help me, you know, write this ordinance several weeks ago, so I did it on my own, and, you know, it started the conversation. I know it needs adjustment. I was told, I put it in as an ordinance, I was told it needed to be a resolution, we did so as a resolution. Again, you know, we tried to talk for the last few days, I know you were busy, I was very busy, but, you know, something needs to be put in place, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, this starts the conversation. Chief, if you have things you'd like to, you know, go over through this thing, Jason, if you'd like to amend it, something needs to be done, because today, it's not what it was 103 years ago.
Mayor, that can pass tonight, it's 1 amendment.
All right, I'm listening.
After the colon in section 1, where it says city-owned or leased vehicles, and it talks about the police department and the chief of police, we delete that and we insert the language. Let me make sure I'm reading this right. The city vehicle use policy. This city vehicle use does not apply to city-owned or leased vehicles used by on-call personnel as designated by the mayor and chief of police.
Okay? Well, the whole policy?
The whole policy.
So driving around with non-city personnel, putting the city at risk for what will be million-dollar judgments.
The only way, that's the only amendment that can fix this all at once.
So
That's the only amendment that can fix this all at once. Otherwise, I think it's got to be taken to the woodshed and started over.
and I'm gonna tell you, Councilman Ricks, I appreciate this. The conversation's going. We need to put a policy and procedure in for city-owned vehicles. You started it.
Absolutely.
So we have it, we're moving forward. I don't think we want to change that and amend this tonight. I think you could pull this, I think we could sit down at the table, and over the next 2 months, we could get something resolved. And each department will have to be treated differently. And they could say, oh, you're favoring this department, you're not favoring that department. That's gonna be the mayor's job to enforce. I'm not gonna disagree, but you got the conversation started. I'm not saying-
That's the intent of
I'm
tonight.
not saying we agree to this. I'm not saying the fire, the police, the mayor. The conversation started, and I think we can move forward with this and,
You want to move forward with that?
no, not move forward, not vote on this resolution tonight, move forward and get some things in action, and over the next couple of months, we could have something in place.
I'm in.
And I appreciate you doing the work and getting this conversation started.
And may I say something? I tend to get excited.
Yes, you do.
Come on.
I've represented Harahan 18 years as an elected official, directly as mayor or councilman, as an elected official for 30 years. I get emotional because I've been there, I've been the mayor. The mayor is the head administrator of the city. He's the CEO of the city. When I was mayor, the department heads, I met with my department heads, just as the mayor has. They have use of their vehicles 24/7. I don't ever remember the abuse. One of my employees abused it, and we terminated him. That was many years ago. But, you know, I think the mayor is the one that controls the department heads. The chief controls the police department. That's been in existence for years. Now, you're right, Eric, it did open up tonight. He got it open. We can discuss it. But I got this Monday in my box Monday. When I saw it, I liked it. I couldn't, nobody discussed it with me. I just saw it, and I think my blood pressure went to 200 over 150. But I was upset because of this.
Should have called the fire department.
I could have called Dr. Bourgeois, my doctor. But we need to involve all department heads when y'all do this. We need to involve the chief, the fire chief, the chief of police, the Gary, the maintenance, the sewer plant, whoever's the department head, we need to involve them in this and let them have input in this. Just like Gary brought up tonight. I wasn't thinking of what Gary was saying tonight, and you made 100%, you made sense tonight, what you were saying, and it could cause problems. With people taking a police car, taking a fire truck to go get sandwiches, and really, with the way it's written, you can't do it. We're going to make exceptions. No, you guys are going to follow what it says, and it's the way it's written, you can't do it. So you're not going to do it.
Actually, the way that it's written, we couldn't even put a victim in a vehicle and rush him to the hospital.
So like
I
Eric
disagree
said,
with you. It
it's,
says related to city operations, and if
It
you're,
also says only employees, no personal passengers.
Well, we have to
Employee
be...
and their spouse, if they
but,
work for the city.
Todd, it's a different day.
Whose spouse works?
It's a different day, and attorneys are hungry, and like I said,
We still have a job to do, but we still have to operate no matter what we have to operate in a small city.
I understand, but at the same time, there's a liability fact that could shut this entire city down, So we have to have policies in place.
don't disagree.
Probably a department, us in the police department, that have the most policies in place.
Chief, if you can't get to a fire and the house burns down, we're going to get sued anyway. So no matter what way you go,
Even if I
if it's a car or something happens, somebody's going to sue us. So sue's a suit. Like Mike said, attorneys out there waiting to sue. They sue in Gretna and West Wego over those cameras, those speed cameras on the West Bank. So everybody's going to sue no matter what they sue.
yeah, but you can reduce exposure. And having guests in a city-owned vehicle exposes the city to a huge liability.
Don't
And
disagree.
I've got some company experience from over 30 years ago where a non-employee was in a company-owned truck and was hurt. This is over 30 years ago. The judgment was over $1 million. One person. So the question becomes, and it's risk management. How do you manage that risk?
Well, I'm going to say this, that several years ago, I own a company, and, I had two guys on the causeway who were rear-ended as the truck failed and was still coasting, but a lady hit us from behind, obviously in the left rear corner of the truck. She was almost killed. It was a $2.8 million lawsuit on her behalf. We didn't do anything wrong. There was nowhere to get off, but she hit us doing about 80 miles an hour. So, Napoleonic law in Louisiana is different than any other state in the Union. So for something to happen to somebody who's volunteering their time without policies in place, without vehicle guidelines in place, we put the city at risk and the taxpayers at risk every single day. So I'm going to withdraw this motion tonight, or this resolution tonight.
You may have to defer it. Let's talk about that before you
Okay, well, should I withdraw or defer?
Well,
Withdraw, you're going to rewrite it, so withdraw it.
can you submit it again? Isn't there a question
He
about
can
it?
as he submits it as an ordinance and not as a resolution.
Ordinance.
Okay, well, let's get some clarification on that, Scott, if you can help us. Mike has told us, it's just one little bite at this apple. Mike said that he proposed it as an ordinance and was told it had to be a resolution. So it could be a resolution. So it does, okay.
But it's not, you can only not resubmit something if it fails. It's not failing, he's withdrawing it.
Withdraw it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion by
Thank you for that
Councilman
clarification. So
Yeah.
that issue,
Yes, sir.
So you have a motion by me to withdraw the
Councilman
resolution.
and before we do that,
Second.
Yes.
we got another question here. I think when this was drafted, there was an assumption, and maybe an improper assumption, that the city council could dictate vehicle policy for the police department.
Nope.
Or the mayor could dictate policy
No.
for
Not
the
for the
police
police.
The
department?
city council can.
You say no what?
He can't. He's an elected official.
I'm the
He's chief
chief.
of police. He does what he wants.
That's
We
why,
can't dictate to him.
that's why
we-
he
City
was
council can.
excluded.
The
The
city council
department
can.
was
That's why it was
excluded under that assumption.
That's correct.
And this includes a recommendation that the police department's a recommendation because we can't tell the chief how to, the
Yeah.
police chief how to operate his
Right.
department.
Put that up.
He's got that authority. So there's a recommendation in here that the police department
Yeah.
adopt a similar policy.
They already have.
Not exact, but
Correct.
get a policy. We need to have these policies to protect the city. And as to these important details y'all are telling us about tonight, I wasn't aware of that. It's not a policy. It's not written anywhere. It's just what y'all do, and it's good. But that can be part of a policy. We don't, it's, if you operate without any policy, there can be no discipline, there can be no control. If there's no policy in place, it's the Wild Wild West.
That's right. And that's why I introduced
Now, this
this.
policy needs to be expanded to clearly not put firemen or employees at risk for the issues you talked about. That's no doubt. That was never the intent. Look, somebody's got to write down those uses. When can a non-employee be in a company vehicle? When is the city going to be at risk for that person? With good reason. We need to have a policy. So we need the fire department to help us with this, and if this policy is determined that it's going to apply to the police department also, we need some guidance from the police department, because we don't want to hamper operations. And
Right.
so, Scott, do you have a thought on how we go about determining whether the council can write an ordinance that applies to the police chief for vehicle use?
No, he can adopt
If
what we do
need be, I
as
can
a
give
city.
up my
Yeah.
car, because I got a personal car. I got 4 of them.
No, but I'm saying, like, for what we're trying to do is to set guidelines and parameters. We're not trying to hurt anybody. I don't know why this is taken to such a level, but, understand this. Like Buddy just said, without policy and procedure, it is the Wild Wild West. And, we're responsible fiscally for the city. And I take this job pretty seriously, and I try and do what I can to make sure that, just like at my company, we're not at liability or risk for lawsuits, because that's the most important thing. As far as I'm concerned, now that you brought that up with the additional, help that may hang out at the fire department and things like that, I would ask that you take a look at your own insurance policies and make sure that if those guys are in a vehicle going to a fire, that they're also covered. Because if somebody gets hurt, in that instance, there you go. You're at risk. You're liable. Okay, well, as long as all I'm saying is I'm bringing this up to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place to protect us from the ongoing onslaught of lawsuits that are out there. And I mean, it is probably the worst it's ever been, I think, but, we definitely want to protect the city.
So we have motion to withdraw by Councilman Ricks, second by Councilman Asbill. We'll open for public hearing. No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, please note that proposed resolutions 2023-8 has been withdrawn.
Yes, sir. The following resolution was proposed by Councilman Buddy. I had Councilman Ricks written on there, but I made the correction on my end and wanted to acknowledge it for the record.
Well, let me cut you short, if
You
I
wanna-
may.
Yep.
That resolution was authorizing the mayor as an elected official to operate a vehicle. So that would be withdrawn also. So you
Withdrawn.
can open that up to public hearing. I make a
Yep,
motion.
so we have a
to
motion by
withdraw.
Councilman Buddy to withdraw 2023-9. We'll open for public hearing. All in favor, we'll now close public hearing. We have a second by Councilman Chatelain. All in favor?
Yay.
5 yeas, 0
Yay.
nays. Madam Clerk, 2023-9 resolution has been withdrawn.
Okay. The following resolution was proposed by Councilman Chatelain. Proposed resolution number 2023-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Harahan to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Joseph P. Lapinto III, designating him as the ad valorem tax collector for the city of Harahan.
Okay, so we'll open for public discussion, proposed resolutions number 2023-10. Anyone wanting to come speak in favor of or against, please come to the podium. No one coming to the podium. We'll now close public hearing. Council discussion.
I just have, turn that microphone. I just have 2 points, and I'd like to defer it tonight if we can. One, in Section 5, I haven't had a chance to call Mr. Rupert, but it has two fee sections, basically. Section 3 is a fee section on $3 per each tax bill. Section 5 goes on to say, any and all direct costs and expenses incurred by the sheriff, and a bunch of other stuff. I'd like to get kind of clarification on what that includes, and what the hit to the city is going to be. I'm in favor. I think we need to put the tax bills under one roof, but I want us to understand what the financial hit is going to be to the city. And secondly, I'm hoping that we're not premature in offering this. I think we need to make a change to our current code of ordinances before we pass this, before we're able to pass this. Section 2-134 regarding municipal officer says that the tax collector must be a full-time position within the city. This would make it an independent contract.
Is that a city ordinance?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's in our control to change?
Yes, sir.
Assuming we go this route?
Right, so right now, the tax collector is the city clerk. So I'd like to make that change before we authorize the mayor to sign a contract that is against our current ordinances, which I'm happy to draft that and get that done for next month. Something that came up yesterday when I was looking at it.
Madam Clerk, what time restraints are we on this for the set rules to come out? Do we have 30 days, another 30 days to defer this?
We may have to wait another year if we defer it,
Yep,
a time period.
because we are close now.
You know, may I say something? We looked, I talked to Kerry the other day. This company, SRI, is that the company name? SMI, SRI, that one of our previous mayors, before Mayor Baudier signed, they go after people that are delinquent with their sales tax, property tax. I'll get it out, property tax. And we used to charge 1% per month on property tax when people were late. Well, they charge $100 to a person if they're late on their taxes. And when I found that out Monday when I was talking to Kerry, I couldn't believe that we're charging people this amount of money when the parish charges 1% when you're late on your taxes. If you're late a month, they charge you 1%. Well, these people charge $100 to our citizens when you're late on your taxes and whatever, and the 1%. Well, last year, or this year, was it this year or last year? This year, we paid them $71,000, this company, SRI. This year, we paid them $43,000 and $28,000, 2 checks, because they send out notice to the citizens when they're late on their taxes, and they collect the money. Now,
From what I understand, the city's not paying that.
no, the citizens are.
Right.
But I don't want our citizens to be paying the extra money they shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
This was done a long time ago now. Now, the agreement the mayor's looking at with the sheriff is going to cost the city approximately $26,000. It's $3 per parcel. He's going to charge us to collect the taxes for the city. That's a benefit to the city, in my opinion. When the mayor when I saw this on the agenda and I saw this, I think it's an asset for us to have the sheriff, and it's only one tax bill that people have to pay now. They don't have to pay 2. You have to pay one to the city of Harry and one to Jefferson Parish. And a lot of people get confused on that, especially the seniors. They get confused. I've had seniors not fall behind on their taxes because I paid my taxes. They paid Jefferson Parish tax, or they paid Harahan tax, but they didn't pay the other tax. So it confuses them. Next thing you know, their property's coming up, they get notice, their property's going up for sale because of property tax. So I think there's a benefit to our citizens where we get now one tax bill. Now I think it's going to be saving the citizens of Harahan money. The citizens, like I say, they're the ones that's paying that delinquent fee on your property tax.
So
And
I've got
that,
a-
that was ridiculous when I heard that. There's $100 they charge them.
Well, I think the sheriff charges late fees in addition to interest.
1%.
I think there's, if you look at a
Well, I don't
tax
know that.
bill,
Bring this up from the floor.
they put liens on property.
Well, yeah.
But the sheriff's going to do that. The sheriff's would treat Harahan residents, property
We
owners.
do it from the floor.
In Harahan, the same way he would treat us if we didn't pay those Jefferson Parish's taxes. So there will be, it'll be a good thing.
Correct.
It'll be done right. They've got a professional staff. They do this all the time.
Correct.
On a much bigger level than the city.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea in theory, and I don't want to,
But I don't want to hold it up.
I don't wanna hold it
and
up.
delay us.
I can't
I
say-
got a- oh, go ahead.
I can't say anybody else in Jefferson Parish does this, but other municipalities and stuff do this in other parts of the state. I mean, I own different property, and we pay one bill, and they disperse it to the municipality, so
So
this
I-
is very common.
I agree with everything that's been said. The term on this starts October 1st. If the council will allow me, I can propose a solution that if you allow me to introduce an amendment to the ordinance from the floor tonight, we can pass it in September and pass this in September immediately
or
after.
if necessary, we can hold a
introduce it
special
before.
meeting.
Yeah.
Introduce the ordinance from the floor.
I can.
No,
yeah,
amendment
that's
from
fine.
the
It'll
floor.
take me 5 minutes to write this ordinance. I can introduce it from the floor and we can pass it in September and then pass
As
it.
long as it gets, so they get the taxes out.
I'm happy for you to do that, thank you, and let's do it. But I do have some concerns. I think theoretically and factually, this
yeah.
is a great idea.
This also gives us another month to address some of this stuff with Mr. Rupert.
Yeah. The $3 charge is minimal, because we buy a stamp for 60 cents, somebody stuffs it in an envelope, somebody addresses it, somebody mails it off, somebody gets the money when it comes in, somebody makes a list of it, somebody deposits it in the bank, individual checks. That $3 cost will more than be saved. So it's very reasonable. The other cost, I agree with Councilman Asbill completely. It's vague.
Very open-ended, yeah.
And Sheriff Lapinto is not going to screw Harahan or any municipality, but this will apply in perpetuity in effect. So you've got to write it such that we understand what the costs are.
Right.
And I believe if he's going to charge cost for processing a tax sale, and there is a cost for that, I believe that gets put, it's a lien on the property. It gets paid by the buyer. Well, the buyer, or, when somebody gets a notice that their property's going up for tax sale, 98% of the people go down and pay their taxes. It doesn't go to a tax sale. But there are costs put on. Once you get a notice, the cost of that, the late fees, the interest, are costs that a property owner bears, whether they're a citizen or a business, a person or a business. That's the way it's done parish-wide by everybody.
Yes.
So, Mayor, here's my question, and for Todd also. We've got a couple of things that we're considering tonight that are going to increase costs. And we would all generally agree, I think we will all agree 100%, that they're valid and expenditures and we want to move forward with them. But they're going to increase costs. And we haven't got an update on our 2023 budget. So while we want to do the right thing always, we also want to know that we have the money to do it. And if not, what are we going to cut to do these things? Because we're going to have to balance priorities. Or I don't know if we're going to have to cut anything. So I wouldn't let that delay us tonight on this ordinance, because it could be critical to the sheriff moving forward, the sheriff of Jefferson Parish. But I would ask that at the next meeting, we get a budget update so we all know where the city stands. I'm hopeful that we're in good stead. These are recurrent costs. So can you do that for us, Don?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's a resolution.
Because all of this is authorizing the mayor to sign this.
Right.
So you can approve it today, where he has authorization to add a sentence and any changes approved by him.
Yeah.
Then you can figure it out. If the sheriff's office makes any changes to your room, it's already done, that way it's in place. And you can do your ordinance too.
That's a great idea. That's the way corporations do deals. They give the CEO the authority to negotiate it to his,
Yeah, but I want to vote for it, and I can't vote for it without first changing the ordinance that.
yeah, we got to do
prohibits
that. I
from
agree.
voting
That's a good
for it.
catch.
Call a special.
And
And it doesn't trump the ordinance until it's changed, but it doesn't mean you can't pass this, that's up to you.
I mean, we know we're going to amend it. Let's just pass it.
So,
Because time is- I'm thinking-
Scott,
I'm
what you're
pretty
saying
sure time
is,
is of the essence.
the fact
Yeah.
that we passed the ordinance saying that the mayor has the authority to do this, it hasn't been done yet. So the existing ordinance is, yeah,
You're just giving them the authority. You can wait, you can sign
You're going to wait, right?
tomorrow, you can wait 2 weeks, you can make a couple of changes. It's the
Okay.
resolution giving them the authority to sign.
Steve, can you give me a resolution number, and we can put a paragraph in here that says this only becomes effective on the passage of proposed resolution number 2023 whatever?
Ordinance?
2023.
Resolution.
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Ordinance will be 2023-23.
2023-23, she said? Okay, so you want to add your amendment?
Can we defer
You
this?
just, all you gotta just read the title.
Defer it to the end of
Just
the
read the
meeting?
title.
Let's defer it to the end of the meeting?
Okay. We'll just amend the agenda. We'll just amend the agenda to move. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Asbill to amend the agenda, proposed resolution 2023-10 to right before ordinances for introduction.
Okay.
All right? And we'll bring anybody want to come speak for or against, please come to the podium. No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. All in favor?
yeah.
A 5 yeas, 0 nays. And I'm going to ask for a point of personal privilege and call Councilman Ricky Template up to come to the microphone, come introduce himself. He's a great friend of Harahan, and he's a great friend to Jefferson Parish.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for recognizing me and bringing me up here, Mayor and Council and Chief. It's a pleasure to be here. I was in the area and just wanted to stop by and greet y'all and, say hello to y'all. Jefferson Parish is doing great, and part of that is because Harahan is one of the shining stars in Jefferson Parish. People forget that the parish has about 440,000 residents and 6 cities in it, and Harahan is one of those cities. I just wanted to come by and say hello and let you know that I'm here to help y'all wherever I can. Y'all have been great partners. One of the biggest success stories here in Jefferson Parish is the unity we have right now, and working with each parish city, working with our state legislators, and working with our council and our administration. And it's been a pleasure working with each and every one of y'all, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that y'all might have or anything I can do for y'all.
I'd just like to make a quick statement real fast. Councilman Template and I, we go back quite a bit, and his message of unity in the parish has just resonated so much. The parish, we're number one. I think we believe we're the #1 economic driver in the state of Louisiana.
Well, let's say this. Jefferson Parish has pumped in, last year only, $370 million into the state coffers. So yes, we're the #1 economic development in the state.
And I think it's because of Councilman Template's leadership and his ability to get out and build bridges between, I'm going to say it, the great East Bank, West Bank divide. I think Councilman Template has single-handedly ended that. And now we are one Jefferson Parish, and we are the shining star of the parish of the state of Louisiana.
Right.
Because of mentors like Councilman Template and because of his vision. I'm so thankful to have him in my life every day. I think I would call him and thank him every day. But it's been incredible. We've had one heck of a time together, and we've done some amazing things together, and I'm so appreciative of it. So I
Well,
wanted
let me
to
say
thank
this,
you.
we didn't do a poll, but our business community did a poll on Jefferson Parish and citizens, and to find out a gauge of where we are and how many people are happy with the direction of Jefferson Parish. Over 75% of the residents of Jefferson Parish say they like the direction we're going in. So that's a compliment to all of us, not just one person. We work as a team. I'm not much of an I person, I'm a we person. So we all work together to make this a better place for all of us to live, work, and play.
Thank you so much for dropping by.
All right.
That's
Well, I'd
incredible.
like to say something about Ricky Template. I got elected to this office first of the year, And Ricky Template has been there for me. I've called on him. He answers the phone no matter day or night. And he's made it a lot easier for me learning this, the political realm, if you will. But Ricky's been a great asset, great friend to the city of Harahan, and we need to continue to keep Ricky Template as part of our group. And I thank Ricky for coming. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Well, thank you, brother.
I want a surprise, so
Yeah,
thank
get
you.
surprises.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good meeting, guys.
Thank you, Ricky.
so
Thank you, Ricky.
Appreciate it.
Stop and eat in Harahan, spend some money.
Yeah, ready? Ordinances for approval. Proposed ordinance number 2023-17. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Chatelain and seconded by Councilman Asbill. An ordinance to sell and/or auction property owned by the municipality of the city of Harahan, providing for the procedure to be utilized pursuant to the provisions of LRS 33-4712, which provides for the sale, exchange, or lease of property by a municipality.
Okay, we now open for public hearing. Anyone want to speak on proposed ordinance number 2023-17? Please come to the podium, speak for or against. No one coming forth. Will now close public hearing. We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Chatelain, second by Councilman Asbill. Council discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor?
Wait. I think,
I've got no discussion.
Proposed ordinance.
didn't we have a proposed amendment on that? Couple of words. I'm looking for it. I had it.
You do, Councilman Buddy.
Thanks.
You have section 1, paragraph 1, to dispense of city property, amended saying as described below in section 2.
So, thank you, Mayor. What I'm proposing is that on line 18, after the words dispose of city property, we add a comma, as described below in section 2, comma. Because section 1, as it is broad. It would be in place as long as this resolution's in place. He could sell any city property. I don't think that was the intent. I think the intent was he was going to sell the listed property.
Correct.
So all this does.
It says here in
I
section
think he's
2,
trying to sell everything, to be honest.
as per attached descriptive
Yeah,
list.
but section 1, if you don't put this wording in there, it's commissioned to dispose of city property, no longer needed for public purposes.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to amend proposed ordinance 2023-17, adding on line 18 as described below in section 2. We have a second by Councilman Asbill. We'll open for public hearing on the amendment. No one coming to speak forth. We'll now close public hearing. All in favor on the amendment?
Yeah.
5 yeas, 0 nays on the amendment. Now we'll have a motion on the floor by Councilman Asbill to move to approve as amended. We'll now open for public hearing. No one coming to speak forth. We'll now close public hearing. All in favor as amended?
Yeah.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk.
I would like to ask the clerk, if you would in the future, use this wording as we've amended it here, going forward, because
I'm ready.
it's very specific and it works. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, proposed ordinance number 2023-18.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-18. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Asbill and seconded by Councilman, who won?
Second.
Chatelain. An ordinance amending the Harahan Code of Ordinances, Chapter 19, Section 19-2, relative to powers and duties of the hearing officer for Harahan Regulatory Court.
Okay, we'll now open for public hearing. Anyone wanting to come forth and speak about proposed ordinance number 2023-18, please come forward. No one coming forward. We'll now close public hearing. Councilman Asbill?
Council, this ordinance provides a little bit more teeth for our regulatory court. It allows the hearing officer to issue orders of contempt for failure to comply with other orders, and also issue administrative inspection warrants so that the inspectors or the code enforcement officers can go onto the property and do inspections. This is something that the regulatory department has requested, something that the hearing officer has requested, done some research on it. There's nothing excluding these powers from the code enforcement or regulatory court. So I'd ask for your favorable passage. Open for questions if you have.
What is the point of the regulatory court as opposed to having it where we used to have it in the mayor's court?
So the regulatory court is a more specialized court that'll allow the hearing officer to focus on property-related matters and those matters that are within its jurisdiction. There's another ordinance after this as well that has some amendments regarding it. Talked to Ms. Molly today, I think, and Councilman Chatelain. We had a great conversation about the scope of regulatory court and where it needs to go.
And we've amended
So,
all of those
give me a moment.
problems, or
So I'll be honest with you, I have an ordinance up for first reading, and it's gonna come up still, but we'll talk about it through the month, but I'm probably gonna pull that ordinance. We come up with a way today to where we could pass these two ordinances, and then we're gonna add some verbiage, and we should be fine the way we are, that way we don't have to go back to mayor's court. We'd still run it through a mayor's court, it'd be a division under mayor's court, but it would use the same software, the same computer systems, would have all the backups. The problem is right now, they're not using the computer and the software that we have here to keep track of everything. So if we do that, it's gonna be a lot more teeth in the game, we'll have more
So-
details to back it up.
so I guess,
And this conversation just happened today.
Yeah.
well,
After I
I'm
already
just,
had the ordinance put up.
I'm with you, I'm just asking some questions. So where we have some of these blighted homes and abandoned homes, will this give them what they need to get these homes either demolished or?
Yes, sir. When we
or-
put them together, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so great question, Councilman Ricks, and this is why we've been working hard, and, you know, we are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're always gonna work hard to get better. And this is what we're trying to do. You know, we do have those residents that come into compliance, then that really, you know, really wanna be a part of the great things that we have going on in Harahan, but you got these few that just determine that they're not going to comply to any law whatsoever. And so we're just going to try to work harder to get better at strengthening our laws and really try to bring everyone into compliance, because if you notice, I mean, it's becoming little, but it's on some of our main thoroughfares. It's some of our entrances to the city. And boy, if something bugs me more than that, is having an entrance to our city look like, you know, not very nice. And the truth is, it makes the whole city, it's such perception, right? And so we working really hard to really start to build this stuff in, because I want people to know that we're coming, and no different than the way I support this police department. You come here and you break the law, we're gonna prosecute you to the fullest. You come here and you don't abide by our regulatory laws, we're gonna take as strong and best action as we possibly can to do whatever we got to do. And if that includes taking your house down because it's unsafe for people in our community, we're going to take your house down.
And this is gonna give us more teeth to enforce the fines and subpoena people to come to court, and it's gonna be a little stricter than what we have now. I mean, we've been pretty lenient.
We definitely need it, because, I mean, people are just abusing us.
People become a little bit more compliant when they got to pay a fine.
We don't wanna tie it up in mayor's court, basically, because that's traffic court, and there's so many people. This is few and select.
I
So
was
it'd
just-
take more time, so we'd have a separate time for this. It's not gonna be
I
tied.
was just asking, because in the
Yeah.
past week, I
We
heard
talked,
it needs to
yes.
go back to mayor's
Yeah.
court, it needs to go back to mayor's
So
court.
it
And that
will
was
go
the-
back to mayor's court, correct? That's the plan, to put it back, but just a different part of
Wait.
mayor's court?
No,
Okay.
It's gonna be,
The plan is not to go back to mayor's court.
Right, the plan is to have
This is
more
maintains
this is gonna
regulatory.
maintain
Regulatory
regulatory,
court.
but it's gonna fall under mayor's court.
Right.
All right.
There'll be two mayor's courts.
A little gymnastics there.
It'll become more explained in the next amendment if we get to that.
So,
Okay.
we will,
Next ordinance.
we will.
I got it.
But my understanding was also that the regulatory hearing officer felt he didn't have the authority to do some things that
Exactly.
we thought he should have.
Exactly.
And then there was discussion to put it back in the mayor's court. But, so there's been subsequent discussions, and
Yes,
our
sir.
regulatory director's on board with the courts that you guys.
We spoke to the regulatory director today. We also, I spoke to, Mr. Meeks, the hearing officer, today as well, and I think we're all on the same page. I believe we were all on the same book, we were just on different pages.
And we're figuring out how to,
And I
the
think
best
we're
way to
getting
do
it,
it. But, yeah, for the citizens' knowledge, 4.5 years ago, we figured out we didn't have teeth in our regulatory laws, our ordinances, to enforce reasonable controls over how people blight or not blight their property. So We passed this resolution, or this ordinance, what, I guess about 4 years ago that we,
2019, yes, sir.
yeah. So this is just tweaking it to make it, this is tweaking it to clean it up.
Yes, sir.
And we learned that there were some weaknesses. And let me say this, over the last 4 years, regulatory court has made a huge difference because they didn't have to, I guess, go the full mile. But by persuasion, people cleaned up properties. And we've had a couple of demolitions.
I think it's,
And I guess they were
might be
done.
somewhere around 20.
Yeah, I guess they were done without a judgment. They were ultimately, at the end of the day, done on a consent basis.
Persuaded.
So it's been very effective. We had an issue come up lately where I think it was challenged. The rules were challenged. The hearing officer is concerned that he didn't have the authority to go forward, so this cleans that up.
Yep.
And I want to thank y'all for fixing this.
Yep.
Sir.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Council.
May I say something? Speaking of regulatory department, regulatory court, 20 years ago, back in 2004, when I was mayor, I introduced regulatory court to the city. We had regulatory court, and we got an attorney that came to our regulatory court and questioned the legality of our regulatory court. And I was told the regulatory court, we couldn't have it. So we had to go up to Baton Rouge in 2004 and get Baton Rouge to rewrite the law so we could have a regulatory court there, so we have teeth and to enforce regulatory. And as Councilman Rick said a little while ago, that's 20 years ago. The attorneys today, they're much more aggressive than they were 20 years ago. So everybody sues over every little thing. But 20 years ago, we had regulatory. Let me tell you something. I could line up to people down the hallway that hate my guts because of regulatory, because I made them do what was right. I made them enforce the laws. I made them clean up. I made them tear down things. I made them do what they had to do, what was right. And they'd come to regulatory court at 5:30 in the afternoon. I'd be in my office over there. I'd walk out at 5:30, 5:45. They'd be standing out there. They'd all be throwing daggers at me. Mayor, you know how it is. They'd all be throwing daggers at me because they know I'm the mayor, and the regulatory department, regulatory court is going to put action against you and fine you and do what we have to do. And we did it. So I'm glad y'all keeping the regulatory court, and I'm glad we're moving forward in the right direction.
So
Thank you.
am I correct, a previous mayor, before Mayor Bodier, did they do away with regulatory court? Because I thought we instituted regulatory
That's
court.
that's an onion with a lot of layers.
Okay, well, but anyway, okay, never mind, I withdraw that question.
Thank you. Move to adopt.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Asbill, second by Councilman Chatelain to approve proposed ordinance number 2023-18. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-19. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Asbill and seconded by Councilman
Second. Rex.
Chatelain.
I'll
Oh,
second.
Chatelain, sorry.
Either one.
Who's
An
the second?
ordinance,
A second.
Okay.
an ordinance amending the Harahan Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10 and Chapter 19, relative to procedure and abatement of nuisances created by animals and jurisdiction of the Harahan Regulatory Court.
Okay, we're now open for public hearing. Anyone want to come to speak on proposed ordinance number 2023-19, please come forward. No one coming forward. We'll now close public hearing. Councilman Asbill?
So what this ordinance does is, since the inception of our regulatory court, we have made other changes to our ordinances outside of the regulatory court code that have been affected by the regulatory court. And so this kind of cleans that up. So the first one is, what is the first one? The first one is regarding, we've got this bird issue in front of us on the agenda. This takes that away from the council and puts it in regulatory court where it should be. To be honest, the current issue will still be heard by the council because that's the process that was in place when the complaint was filed. I think
Well,
that's,
But the bird issue, you got the lawsuit. Did you get the copy of the lawsuit?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So how do you fight a national bird protection act, pretty much? I mean, this doesn't give teeth to that, right?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
So what we've asked on the bird issue, and we can talk about that more when we get there, but we've asked on the bird issue is that the council is supposed to decide on this issue for some reason. It's the way it was back in 1975.
Okay.
And for whatever, yeah, back when Mr. Paul first ran for mayor.
No, that was before.
Oh, before you, okay.
Before me and you were born?
Right. So where was I going with that? So the council is supposed to decide that issue, but we've asked the regulatory hearing officer to give us an opinion on it, and take it under advisement. So he's done that. They had that hearing today. He'll provide an opinion at some point next month so we can decide that issue. The second issue, Section B, discusses the pass code prohibited keeping animals for commercial purposes. Last couple months, we instituted a new that allows dog kennels and dog hotels and stuff like that, which is good business for the city. And that now repeals that section. And then Section 19-1, you should have a floor amendment that's redlined somewhere in front of you.
I don't know that I have that. Right? Can I sit? Thank you.
So it adds animals to the regulatory jurisdiction.
I just lost it.
Okay.
I've also added a couple of words to the general jurisdiction language, and just to clarify that Harahan Regulatory Court, as established by this section, is a division of Mayor's Court and has concurrent jurisdiction over all regulatory proceedings for the enforcement of ordinances and so on. So it just kind of cleans it up to where if something can't be enforced in regulatory court, they can bring it over to the Mayor's Court as well. That was the issue before, and there was also issue with, there was some uncertainty whether they could put regulatory issues within the current Mayor's Court software that they use for traffic court and misdemeanor violations and whatnot. So this is going to allow them to do that. And that was Ms. Molly's biggest frustration, was the administration and processing of these complaints.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, a floor motion on the floor that has to be unanimous to,
But can I I think I understand what we're doing here. We still have
floor amendment has to be unanimous, right? Go ahead, Tom, I'm sorry.
no, that's quite all right.
We did that on the other ones.
We still have a regulatory court, period.
Period.
But now it's a division of the mayor's court.
Right. So like, I would liken it to the domestic hearing officers or the criminal commissioner within the 24th. They have all the powers, most of the powers of judges. They just hear these very specific issues, whether it be domestic or criminal stuff. Those 72-hour hearings that criminal commissioner hears.
Scott, he's talking about head, what do you? Makes sense?
Makes sense? Okay, good.
Okay, so we
I
have.
move the amendment.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilman Asbill, second by Councilman Riggs, to amend proposed ordinance 2023-19, adding on line 39, line 38 and 39, is a division of Mayor's Court and has
Concurrent.
concurrence. All in favor on amendment?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, please note the amendment. All right, now we're going to go on the ordinance.
Move to
We have a motion by Councilman Asbill, second by Councilman Chatterling to
Move to
approve
approve
ordinance
as amended.
2023-19 as amended. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, please note for the record, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Okay, so now we're going to come back to...
Proposed
we're at that
resolution,
Proposed ordinance, proposed resolution.
number 2023-10. Do y'all want me to reread it?
No, ma'am, we're good. I have a proposed amendment from the floor to add section 13 XII. This agreement shall only be effective upon the taxing entity's passage of proposed ordinance number 2023-11 relative to allowance of the sheriff to collect taxes by agreement.
Okay, so we have that amendment
Resolution.
by Councilman Asbill.
Agree, Scott?
Where's that at?
Say,
This agreement,
Wait, give me again.
it's going to be the last section of the agreement. So I'm adding section 13, and it's going to read, this agreement shall only be effective upon the passage of the taxing entity's, nope, read that wrong. This agreement shall only be effective upon the taxing entity's passage of proposed ordinance number 2023-11.
23.
I'm sorry?
That was if it was a resolution. It's an ordinance. It'll be 2023-23.
Okay, I'm
For
sorry.
ordinance.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-23, relative to allowance of the sheriff to collect taxes by agreement.
That's poorly
And
written.
that's, we're going to write that for first.
And we'll put that for, and we'll put the ordinance for first reading in September.
Can,
So we could pass this tonight.
for
can pass this
timing
tonight.
purposes, do we want to have a special meeting for that, to
As long as you pass the resolution
do the
tonight.
first reading?
Why don't we just pass it?
That way we could pass the ordinance in the next meeting.
Okay.
I don't know,
We can do the first reading on the ordinance tonight if you want to.
yeah, well, let's,
the title only on the ordinance.
let's do
Okay,
that.
we'll do the first reading on the ordinance
Because
tonight, too.
that cuts a month
I
out.
propose we go ahead and pass this, we'll go to executive session, I'll write the ordinance, we'll come back out, we'll put the ordinance from the floor for first reading.
Yeah.
We'll pass it next month.
I think that's
Or
great.
don't put
All right.
the contingent language, doesn't matter.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Or don't put the contingent language, doesn't trump the ordinance anymore. Still have to pass the ordinance.
Yeah, even if we don't.
So the ordinance you're proposing is the one that amends the existing ordinance saying that the city is collecting the taxes?
Correct.
Correct? Is that what you're doing?
City tax
Yeah.
collector.
Correct.
Right. Can we approve the ordinance tonight?
Approves the resolution.
Move to approve the resolution as amended.
Okay. Can we vote for this? Can we get this done?
Move to amend.
Okay, so we have
Let's
to.
do that first. I have a question
All
now.
right,
We have
move
to
to
approve,
amend.
we have to approve the amendment, so we have a motion by Councilman Asbill,
I
second by
second it.
Councilman Ricks to amend, what was it, proposed resolution 2023-10?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all in favor on the amendment?
Yay.
Yay.
Like 5 yeas, it's 5 yeas?
Yes.
All right, 5
Move
yeas,
to
0
approve
nays.
as amended.
Okay, so now we're going to move to propose.
You wanna open it up,
To
public hearing?
approve proposed 2023-10 as amended.
Mayor, do you have to open that up?
I am.
public hearing?
We're going to open it
Okay.
up for public hearing. No one coming to speak for or against. We'll now close public hearing,
No lie.
and we want to go to council discussion. Are y'all good to move
Good.
forward? All right, all in favor?
Yay.
Yeah.
As amended.
5
yay.
yeas. As amended, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, please note for the record.
Now, question I have. The ordinance that's in place right now on the sale, on the tax, you introducing a new ordinance, or you going to amend the old ordinance?
I'm going to amend the current ordinance.
You're going to amend it? Do you know what number the current ordinance is?
Yes, sir,
All right,
2023-23.
That's all, that's all. You see, you got this, you know how to do all that stuff.
He loves wreaking havoc.
All right, we ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Moving on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ordinances for introduction. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Chatelain. Proposed ordinance number 2023-20, an ordinance approving the rezoning of lots 3, 4, 5, and 6, Square D, Riverside Park Subdivision, City of Harahan, Parish of Jefferson, State of Louisiana from R1A Single Family Residential to GO-M General Office Mixed Use as per a plan made by R.W. Krebs Professional Land Surveying LLC dated July 20th, 2023. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Ricks. Proposed ordinance number 2023-21, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1951, the annual budget of revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023 for the general fund and the police millage fund of the City of Harahan, Louisiana for the police department. The following ordinance was proposed by Councilman Chatelain. Proposed ordinance number 2023-22, an ordinance amending the Harahan Code of Ordinances by rescinding ordinance 1883 and deleting Chapter 19 Regulatory Court. Old business number 1, Board of Adjustment dismissals and appointments.
Do y'all have any dismissals or appointments? Madam Clerk, we have a motion by Councilman Chatelain, second by Councilman Ricks to defer to the next council meeting.
Okay. Old business number 2, bird nuisance complaints.
Okay.
Just one amendment, if we can add to this complaint, the brief that was received yesterday evening, that 20-pager regarding the Migratory Bird Act. If you can.
I didn't get that.
You didn't get it? Okay, I'll forward it to you. If we can, we're going to amend this to include that in this packet, just so that it's public record and we can see that. Other than that, so I move to amend to add that brief.
So we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Asbill to amend old business number 2 to add the Migratory Bird Act. We have a second by
I'll second
Councilman
it.
Chatelain. We'll open the
Okay.
public hearing. No one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. All in favor on the amendment of adding the Migratory Bird Act?
Brief.
All in favor? briefly.
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Move to defer to the next meeting.
Okay, now we have a motion by Councilman Asbill, second by Councilman Ricks to defer old business number 2 to the next council meeting, which is the date of, what's the next council meeting's date?
September 20th? Come on, put me on the spot here. September 15th.
September 15th.
I'm sorry, it's the wrong day. 21st.
September 21st. September
Good
21st.
Yep.
Okay, open for public hearing. Did I open public hearing? We'll now close public hearing. All in favor to defer?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, please put on September 21st.
Okay,
meeting.
new business number 1, Todd Turnion, Finance Director, monthly financials.
We got a lot of new business.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Just a brief update again from the finance team. The auditors were here earlier tonight to present the December 2022 audit. One of our tasks is to address some of the observations that were identified within the audit. So we've addressed some of those items already, real time, and we're working on addressing the rest of the items before the end of the year. So we'll keep the council and the mayor updated as we continue to make progress. Mr. Buddy earlier tonight asked for an update on the budget amounts at the next meeting, so we'll work on that as well to provide the actual and budget amounts for the next meeting. We do know, certainly as Mr. Buddy mentioned, we have some expenses that have been over budget throughout the year. We also know that the city's sales tax amounts continue to be in excess of the budgeted amounts as well. But we'll work to pull the entire picture together so the mayor and the council can see kind of where we're at in the middle of the year. So that's the brief update from the finance team. Happy to answer any questions that the committee members may have.
Todd, I do have a question for clarification. Some of the auditors, or CPA's comments were related to lack of procedures, correct? Policies.
Yes.
So the state legislative auditor has looked at some of our policies, and we don't have them. They're not in writing. We're probably doing most of it, but we don't have written policies. And it gets back to the vehicle use policy. You run an organization, you ought to have rules, and so we're working on that to be in compliance. We're working on policies. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Buddy. Just one clarification that it's simple, and I don't want to minimize the importance of a policy, but the auditor did not really have any recommendations that we were not performing certain functions.
Right.
It's simply that the policy was not in place.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
New business number 2, planning and zoning, dismissal and appointments.
What's this?
Anybody have any appointments? No one have any appointments, Madam Clerk?
I've got a
please.
question. Why is this on new business? Was there a recent vacancy?
I don't know. Was it?
You asked me.
We were, well, it got put on new business. It was my mistake because we thought we were going to have a vacancy. We just haven't had time to institute it yet, but there will be a vacancy. So maybe can we just defer it?
I
leave it
mean,
in
is
new
that a
business?
dismissal that we need to handle tonight, or is it
No,
going to be a resignation?
let me do a little bit
Okay.
more homework on it, so I
Gotcha.
can properly inform the
Okay.
council.
Move to defer.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Asbill to defer, new business number 2, second by Councilman Chatelain, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays, Madam Clerk, new business number 3.
New business number 3, the St. Rita Fall Festival Committee members respectfully request permission to sell beer and wine at the annual St. Rita Pecan Fall Bingo. This year, the bingo will be held on Friday, October 6th, 2023, from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. All proceeds from the Fall Festival will be used for charitable purposes benefiting St. Rita Parish.
Okay, we'll now open for public hearing. Anyone want to speak on new business number 3? All right, no one coming forth. We'll now close public hearing. Any council discussion on new business number 3? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, new business number 4.
New business number 4, the St. Rita Fall Festival Committee members respectfully request permission to sell beer and wine at the annual St. Rita Fall Festival. The festival this year will be held November 3rd, 2023 through Sunday, November 5th, 2023, from 4 p.m. until 11:30 p.m. on Friday, from 11 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. on Saturday, and from 11 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. on Sunday. All proceeds from the Fall Festival will be used for charitable purposes benefiting St. Rita Parish.
Okay, we'll now open for public hearing. Anyone want to speak on new business number 4? No one coming forth, we'll now close public hearing. Anybody have any problems?
Nope.
All in favor?
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Madam Clerk, new business number 5.
New business number 5, the members of the St. Rita Fall Festival Committee respectfully request permission to block Berg Street from Imperial Woods to Rayvan Avenue during the hours of operation for the St. Rita Festival. We also request to block Rayvan Avenue on Sunday, November 5th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We will use Rayvan Avenue to move the children from the school to Berg Street for their classroom performances. The neighbors this will affect will be notified in advance of our intentions.
Okay. New business number 5, both chiefs, y'all okay with that?
I-
Blocking streets for the St. Rita?
I've got a,
I want to, I'm sorry.
I've got an amendment to it, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, this blocks the whole street. And I think we only want to block that one block from Jefferson Highway to Berg. Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Permission to block Berg from Imperial Woods to Rayvan during the hours of operation.
Yeah, I think
Isn't Berg the cross street?
Berg is the cross street, but it
We
says,
always block the cross street.
it says we're blocking Rayvan.
Rayvan, they just blocking for them hours when the kids do their performance.
Yeah, but my point
From
is-
Jefferson Highway to Berg.
Yeah.
Understand?
So I'd like to amend it just to clarify that we're not shutting down Raven the whole way. We're shutting down Raven from Jefferson Highway to
Berg.
Berg.
Okay.
Correct. So I'd like to amend it to, generally, we get a request to shut down Berg from
Rayvan.
or Rayvan to Elaine. I'd like to go ahead and include that in this request, to shut Berg down, all of Berg, basically,
Yeah,
from
that would be all.
from
of Berg.
Elaine to Imperial Woods.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So Councilman,
Saying that's going to block Raven and move the children to Berg Street.
Right, so you're gonna block from Jefferson Highway
Yeah.
all the way to Berg, but the
Okay,
rest of Rayvan will be open. Okay.
we're going to clarify that.
All right, so we have motions introduced by Councilman Asbill to include all of Berg. We'll vote on that amendment first. All in favor?
Can I make a comment? I think all we need to do to the amendment, and Councilman Asbill, tell me if you agree, after the words Berg Street in the second line, we delete the rest of the sentence to the hours.
Yep.
So we're deleting what? From Imperial Woods to Rayvan Avenue, correct?
Yes. Correct. So the members of the St. Rita Fall Festival Committee respectfully request permission to block Berg Street during the hours of the operation of the St. Rita Fall Festival. They also request to block Rayvan Avenue on Sunday from 11 to 6 to move the children. Rayvan from Jefferson Highway to Berg.
Yeah, so we add after the words Rayvan from Jefferson Highway to Berg Street,
Okay,
correct?
so we are good with just Councilman Asbill's amendment? All right, so new business number 5 is amended by Councilman Asbill. We'll vote on the amendment first. All in favor?
Yeah.
We're voting on one amendment or two, the first one?
Just yours.
It's one amendment in Globo.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're going to vote on new business number 5 as amended.
Move.
Moved by
Yay.
Councilman Asbill, second by Councilman Chatelain.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays, Madam Clerk. Number 6.
New business number 6, agreement termination.
May I like to defer that and have a discussion with you on that?
Okay, so I have no problem with that. We have a motion by Councilman motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Buddy to defer new business number 6. Open for public hearing, no one coming forth. All in favor?
Yeah.
Yay.
4 yeas, 1 nay. New business number 6 is deferred. Madam Clerk, read for the record, 4 yeas, 1 nay. Put into the record, I'm sorry. But then it was Councilman Asbill.
Address the council.
Okay, now we'll.
Your turn.
Yeah, we'll now open address to council. Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Barbara Harney, 164 Glenwood Avenue. In regards to the proposed ordinance 2023-20, rezoning lots 3, 4, 5, 6, Square D Riverside Park subdivision. Proposal is made to rezone that property from R1A to GOM. The address is 8250 Jefferson Highway. This property is abutted by 5 residents on 3 sides. This property sits in the middle of a house facing Glenwood Avenue and a house facing Berkeley. It's that disgusting house right in the middle, and they want to rezone it to general mixed use. I say no. You have too many people living all around this. My backyard abuts that property. This is not a good idea. We need to keep it residential, that entire area. We have enough mess on the golf course, which has affected Harahan, and we don't need any more commercial in the middle of residential property. So I say no. Now, what is going to follow? Because I found this out by accident today.
This is only for introduction?
Yeah, so
inform the
what
public?
proceeds next?
It comes up for the ordinance, will be on for a vote at the next council meeting.
Well, it goes
I'm sorry, it goes to planning and
goes to
zoning.
planning and zoning.
When are we going to be notified? Because I know the neighborhood is
Once
going to
it
be
goes to
against
planning
it.
and zoning, you'll see a yellow sign go up in the front yard with the date of the planning and zoning meeting.
And when do we get letters?
You should
And
get
you should receive a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the next step, it'll be before planning and zoning.
Yep, and then after that, it'll come to us with a recommendation.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You know the process. We're up here picking on us.
All right, no one else coming forth, we're now closed public
Wait, we
hearing.
got one, Mayor.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Ostringer. I'm with the Harahan Fire Department. I'd like to take just a few minutes. I know everybody's time is valuable, so I'm going to make this as brief as possible. Having worked in a few different departments, one of Harahan Fire Department's greatest attributes is the public relations aspect and the rapport and support that we have from our community. Our public education and public affairs have been extremely comprehensive and successful. Unfortunately, our public affairs cannot address fireground operations. That's just not within the purview of what we do. So with that said, I'd like to address some concerns that maybe the lay people and the taxpayers, residents of Harahan did not understand that were brought up at a previous council meeting. All right, one of the concerns that they expressed was that we did not get there quickly enough. Councilman Chatelain, you were able to address that pretty quickly. We reviewed our records. That was from the time that they were dispatched to the time on scene, under 6 minutes, okay? Moving from there, some of the other concerns, and you know, it's a chaotic environment. Those people are not used to, the neighborhood, the residents not used to how we operate. And I think you also brought up the fact that time seems to move very slowly in that case. One of the concerns was that we did not have water. And I think that was based on the fact that, no, we do not have a hose connected to a hydrant. Luckily, the fire engines have a tank of water on board, and we operate on that to allow some time to make a hydrant connection. So I think that that's how there was a little misunderstanding in that regard. By reviewing the incident, we know that we had large bore streams, that, you know, we were addressing propane tanks that were compromised at that time, as well as gas cans. A lot of heavy fire load on arrival. Moving from there, one of the other concerns was that houses were not being protected, possibly as aggressively as they would like them to have been. And once again, in a review of the incident, we were able to establish that immediately, within 30 seconds of arrival, there was water flow, and it was being used to keep all of the people on the fire ground safe, to address those propane tanks, gas cans, things like that, that could have presented an even greater hazard to everyone else. Another concern, that was the house itself was not one of the exposure houses, not the initial fire building, that we were not able to effectively protect it through lines, okay? Another review of that was that they were working simultaneously. So we were able to protect the houses there. We had to reposition just because we can't have manpower directly in front of something that's going to potentially explode. But there was protection from the outside. Within a very short time, we were able to transition to the interior of it and, as we say, take it, to the seat of the fire. Another one was that there were hoses laid on the ground that were not being employed. They were just left unmanned. Those are done as a precautionary or a prophylactic measure so that if something does change, if we have a collapse, if we have personnel trapped, that we don't have to rush and stretch hose line there. We generally try to lay a line that's not in use there so that all of our manpower is covered. One of the ones that seemed to have gained a lot of traction was that none of the firefighters knew where the hydrants were. I don't think it was considered that we had 2 other cooperating agencies, mutual aid agencies. Fortunately, 3rd District and Jefferson Parish were able to augment our resources on that fire ground and assist us. We don't have an expectation that someone coming from another part of town would have it committed to memory where every hydrant is located. So in that case, yeah, personnel from other departments were asking a group of people standing there, hey, where's the closest hydrant to this? You know, you can't expect them to know that. And even under any other circumstance, in a time-sensitive issue, that, you know, had I seen a crowd of people there that I know are the neighbors, instead of us having to retreat to the trucks, look it up on a map or any other electronic resource, if there are people standing there, it's logical that one of these people has that hydrant in their front yard and can direct us to that as quickly as possible. Moving from there, one of the other concerns was that there was a jurisdictional feud, or that nobody, you know, there was a battle between the departments as to who's going to handle that. There is a nationwide precedent set for that under the incident command system. And in that case, whatever area that incident occurs in, that is understood that that department is in charge. We have what we refer to as mutual aid. In this case, it was Jefferson Parish and 3rd District. Mutual aid is called that for that very reason. They are assisting personnel. It's not mutual control where they take over or there's this struggle for who's going to run the incident. Okay, so that was pretty easily mapped out. One of the last things to consider with that was that it took over an hour for a ladder truck to be in place and whatever. The strategy and tactics of that incident were pretty fluid. We had a lot of concerns from life safety to spreading to other areas to airborne fire brands. And as the incident evolves, we need to remain fluid in our strategy and tactics to address those. So, yeah, that did change. We did relocate, and we were able to keep up with the progression of the incident. The last thing that I could bring up to you all is that some homes were not handled as aggressively as other ones were. Okay, that, you know, we went out of our way to perform salvage, overhaul operations, retrieve personal effects from anybody that was involved in that, anything that we could do. There is no politics on a fire ground. There is no, we're going to prioritize one residence or one family over another. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. I think the taxpayers and the residents of Harahan deserve the peace of mind to know that the fire department is there to act in their best interest and that there was no preferential treatment or any other shortcomings that were suggested at the last meeting. Thank you guys for hearing us out.
Can I ask you just one quick question?
If I'm able to answer it, if I have that information, absolutely.
So in regard to that, I do understand, and I thank you for your presentation this afternoon, but is there, when some incident like this happens, and I'm asking simply because I do not know.
Sure.
Is there an outside, does the state fire marshal come in and investigate the incident and how the thing played out or anything of that nature?
The fire investigations are conducted by independent outside agencies. Same way the recordings were and the timestamps and everything there. JPSO has custody of that. They operate the 911 center, and we are basically, or any fire department is a tenant of them. So information coming from them, you know, that is exclusively JPSO. We do not have access to that. They record that and they disseminate that. I understand where you're going with it, but I just wanted to preface it with that. There are a lot of cooperating groups. So the investigation, any analysis afterward, is also done by a neutral third-party entity, whether that's Jefferson Parish Fire Department, or in this case, They went so far as to enlist the help of the State Fire Marshal's Office because it was of a greater magnitude than what's ordinarily handled by JPFD.
And again, the only reason I'm asking is from, our liability, having an outside entity, to make sure that that is all handled on the liability standpoint is my ask.
Yeah, incident analysis, things to that effect, and anything as far as the growth and development of fire, that's going to be part of the fire investigation that's done by a third party, and in this case, Jefferson Parish as well as the state.
Thank you very much.
So for clarification,
Probably several insurance adjusters as well. Probably several insurance agencies and attorneys are going to hire.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that a state agency or some other regulatory body would have not a biased opinion, is I guess what I'm asking.
That's correct.
For clarification, and again, I don't know.
Sure.
The process. The state agency came in and investigated the entire fire, the cause, and what our fire department did and our adjoining fire departments?
It's not something that they are able to. They primarily investigate the cause and origin and fire spread.
That's what I thought.
There is a bit of an overlap with fire operations and fire ground tactics, but that is their purview, not ours. We don't investigate our own in-house incidents,
Right,
if
so
that answers your question.
we haven't had, and I'm not saying we need it, we haven't had a review of all the good data you gave us earlier and how you guys actually fought the fire.
We have, insofar as we're using the independent records and things, the timestamps, radio communications, the 911 calls, to generate an analysis of that. We do a critique of most any incident that we respond to after, to improve, to better, to guarantee that we are handling things as effectively as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Counsel.
report.
The
Thank you.
entire
Thank you.
report.
Yep.
Good job.
Okay, we'll now close, address the council. Madam Clerk?
Secretary's report for July 2023, total revenues, $1,716,576.03. Reports.
Chief LaPree?
We've been busy with shorthands. Real quick, we had 671 calls for service. We had 11 accidents. Our citations are up to 145. I was notified by Denise that they're hiring another person to help her with all the tickets. So those tickets and revenues are going up. We had 9 patrol requests, miscellaneous arrests, 38. We had 83 charges totaling 8 felony, 32 misdemeanor, 2 DWIs, 23 city, 18 traffic arrests. Our narcotics arrests continue to go up. We had 19 arrests on 21 charges, 5 were felonies, 2 were misdemeanors, 14 were city charges. Larceny, thefts, we had 4, and assaults, we had 3. So the narcotic issue is concerning. We're starting to see people on bicycles. We had a bicycle stop made on the highway up by Dock. Guy had 7 grams of cocaine in his pocket on a bicycle. So it's concerning. We do have a narcotic task force we're operating now that we've started within the department. We're out there aggressively patrolling, and we're making arrests. As Tim, the mayor, said earlier, we welcome you to come into the city, but if you come into the city and you break our laws, we're going to put you in jail. We're looking at reactivating our jail, but right now we're transporting everybody to the correctional center. I know there was a first reading tonight for more money for these policemen. This department, we're hemorrhaging officers because we can't afford to keep them. We've lost 2 officers in the last week that went to the city of Kenner. They got a $10,000 raise just for crossing the street. If we want to be protective, we've got to pay. We've got to put money up to pay for our protection. I don't have a treasure chest that I can go and get money from. I do want to thank Chief Conley. He sent me 5 of his used vehicles today because he got 25 brand-new cars through the enterprise leasing program. We didn't want to do the leasing program, so I'm struggling to find vehicles. I got 5 of them today from the city of Kenner. Last week, I went to the state surplus in Baton Rouge. I was able to obtain 4 surplus state police vehicle Tahoes. They're sitting in the back. They left the lights, sirens, cages, everything in them for us. We were able to get those for $10,400. I'm scraping every penny I can get. I don't know what took place for the last 12 years, but we're spending money at the Harahan Police Department that we don't have. We were paying for Cox Cable TV for the last 5, 6 years. We didn't even have TV in the building. So I'm critiquing every bill that comes through the police department, and we're cutting costs. Everything has to go back out for bid. This is not my money. This is the city's money. I pay taxes here along with the citizens. We need help. That resolution there to get more funding for our policemen. I think I've stopped the hemorrhaging right now. We have 3 or possibly 4 of the officers that are looking at going to other agencies because of the money. They like what we're doing here. They like the changes that have been made, but people have to pay their bills. You know, the changes we're making is not paying their rent and not paying for their kids to go to school. I would encourage the council, the city, to back this, to get these gentlemen the money. We have good policemen. They love their jobs. They do a good job. They're out there on the street day in and day out, but we got to keep them. If we want to keep them, we got to pay them. We did have a blood drive, I believe yesterday, for one of our sergeants. His father, David Mitchell Sr., is in dire need of blood. We were able to have a blood drive here yesterday with the City of Harahan Police Department. We were able to obtain, I think, 25 donations for blood. In 2 weeks, the blood drive told us that they're going to be at Winn-Dixie, and this opportunity will be open for next month. So if somebody will go to Winn-Dixie in the next couple of weeks, we're going to post it on our website when they're going to be there. If anyone can go donate blood, we'd appreciate it. Just tell them it's for David Mitchell Sr., and we'd be greatly appreciative. Like I said, we're cutting costs. We're looking at every bill. The guys, and they know now, don't bring me anything without 3 bids, and it better be on a state contract or we're not buying it. I just mentioned that. We are starting the Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over campaign. We did get a state grant, so we will be out through Labor Day weekend doing the Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over campaign. Want everybody to be safe and be aware. If you're driving down the road and you see somebody that may be impaired, call us and we will come out there and we're going to try to take control of that and stop that individual. School zones are back open. The schools are back open. We want to be safe. We stopped a guy 65 in a 20-mile-an-hour zone the other day. We're writing tickets. We're not giving warnings anymore. We're writing the tickets. The new EOC building, I want to thank Mike Ricks and the council and Mayor Baudier. The building next door is almost complete. Once we get it completed, I'll get with the mayor and the council and see if we can maybe have an open house for any citizens that like to see what their money went into and what we have now. We're going to have a training room up there with it also. I do want to thank Senator Kurt Talbert, our state senator, for supporting the Harahan Police Department. We were able to receive $560,000 from Senator Talbert to buy body cameras, new tasers, LDR radar readers in our units. We really appreciate his support, and I'm giving him my support. He is up for re-election. I want to thank Big John Ilg for his support, state rep. He was able to obtain $150,000 for us, for the Harahan Police Department, to get some new vehicles. Right now, we're using everybody's hand-me-downs, but it would be nice to put some of our officers in a new vehicle to drive. But I'm actively working on trying to locate vehicles. There's just not a lot out there. I had a meeting yesterday with the Ford and Chevy folks. If we can get, the order will come out in November, we may be able to get some vehicles first quarter of next year. We are working on Night Out Against Crime. We're going to have some kind of get-together for the community. I know COVID stopped it for a while, and it hasn't been there for a while, but we have been asked to participate in Kenner's Night Out Against Crime at the lakefront by the casino in Kenner. We'll post that. It's going to be open to the public. Harahan has been invited, along with other agencies, to participate in that. We did have 3 of our police units were wrecked in the last week and a half. 2 of them that were on scenes of other accidents had drivers that were not paying attention and ran into our units. One of the units totally totaled. Thank God the officer wasn't in the vehicle, because the tailgate came right through the driver's side window, and the officer would have been decapitated. Thank God he was out of the vehicle when it hit. The other unit that was accident, it was parked at his residence off of the roadway. Distracted driver, a young driver, new driver, looking at a phone, sideswiped the unit and damaged that. So I'm proud of our Harahan Police Department. They're working hard. They love what they do. They come into work every day for a little pay, but if we don't get them some more money, we're going to lose them. I had a brief conversation with the sheriff. If we keep losing our officers, we're not going to be able to provide 24/7 coverage for the city of Harahan. We're just not going to have the personnel. But we need to keep them. We do have 2 officers that have applied. One officer is a reserve. He's wanting to come on full-time because he sees what we're doing for the city. He likes the changes. He likes what we're doing. He was a post-certified police officer from JPSO, which doesn't happen often, but he's come on full-time. He's met all the requirements, and we're hoping to get him on the street in the next couple of weeks. We have another gentleman that's a 21-year-old that learned about us from the Bugaloo. He was with the Bugaloo Police Department as a jailer. He wants to come on and be a policeman, so we're in the process of hiring him now. So we're hiring 2, but we're losing 2, so we have a -0. But I appreciate Councilman Ricks. He's been a great supporter, Eric and all the council, Tommy and all. We just need to do something. If we want to be protective, we've got to start investing in our own community, and if not, we're going to lose it. And again, I thank Ricky Templet for being here tonight. Dominic Impostata has been a great asset to me also. They love the city of Harahan. They're always there when we need something, and I would ask that y'all would give them your consideration in this election along with Kurt Talbert. I thank you, and everybody have a great week.
Chief, along the lines of the officers, you're not at full complement right now.
That's correct.
How many officers would you hire tomorrow if you had the money and you had the applicants?
If I had the money, I would like to try to get at least 5 or 6. Right now, we don't have, I had to pull the school resource officer out of Harahan Elementary. We had to get that officer back on the street. We just didn't have enough coverage. We are stopping in the school 4 or 5 times during the day to have a presence, but we don't have enough officers to be there. We don't have anybody assigned to the multi-jurisdiction task force that came in and helped us during our sad day of our little girl murder. They came in. They've offered for us to have somebody on that group. Every time they make an arrest and they make a seizure, we get a portion of that. But we're not getting that right now because we don't have anybody on the task force representing the city of Harahan. We had, in the past, we had a couple officers assigned to the DEA task force. We don't have enough officers to have them. They're making seizures all the time. There's revenue that could be coming in from that. So in my perfect world, I would have at least 33 officers. That way, if I had somebody on vacation, somebody called in sick, I still had coverage, and I wouldn't have to worry about overtime. Right now, our overtime is going back up because we're losing officers. And even though we have these 2 new officers coming on, they're going to have to ride with another officer, an FTO, for the next month or so they get used to the city of Harahan ordinances, the paperwork, and how we operate here. So that's the perfect world, but I understand we have to be able to fund that too. And there's a lot of bills, there's a lot of issues, and I'm trying to cut every penny I can within that department And if we don't need it, we're cutting it. You know, we're thank God we're having the hand-me-down vehicles coming from the other agencies to give us cars to be able to patrol. But like I say, I appreciate the support of the people. I've been getting compliments. We are running radar a lot. I will say this, the other day we got a call on Colonial about speeding. I sent an officer out there, started running radar. The first 2 tickets were the people that lived on Colonial. You know, and then they want to call and cry at me because we're writing tickets. And I will say, and Councilman Johnson mentioned something earlier about speed cameras. I want to correct the record. Jefferson Parish never had speed cameras. Jefferson Parish had red light cameras. They never had speed cameras. That was canceled because of all the corruption that was going on with the speed camera. I mean, the red light cameras. The reason why Gretna is getting ready to be sued, they're going to pay out because the law needs to be changed, and that's going to be changed in the next legislative session in Baton Rouge. The law now says any ticket has to be reviewed in a court. These are civil tickets. That's where the issue is coming into. So that is going to be addressed in the next legislative session to change that law. When that law changes, I will be asking the public to support red light, not red light cameras, speed cameras. We don't have enough officers to be on everybody's street. So we need another eye in the sky. So I just want to make sure we understand what that is. But I will be asking for those speed cameras when that law is changed. I thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Let me take you.
Your predecessor, it seemed like every time we turned around was buying new cars. What happened?
Well, you're welcome to come to the back and I'll show you the cars we have. One of our cars that was wrecked, the officer took another car, and we had a 108, which was an officer in need of help in a bad situation at Walmart. So we rolled to back to Jefferson Parish 4th District unit because they didn't have enough units to get down there. The car he took got down to Walmart, but we had to get it pushed back because the engine started burning up in it. They're just old vehicles, and the public's welcome to come look at anything the Harahan Police Department has.
Can
We're an
I
open
make
book.
an add to that,
Yes.
please? Chief Walker was fortunate in that Paul Johnston, with discretionary funds, when he was a Jefferson Parish councilman, bought those new cars, at least 10, as I recall.
Last year, I bought 8 in 2019. Well, it's 2019 now.
So-
That's 2019, we're in 2023, that's 4 years ago.
Them cars run around the clock.
They probably
That's a
got
lot.
150,000 miles on them by now.
And the
More than
engine's
that.
running 24 hours a day.
It's a
So-
lot.
So we had a very helpful and friendly councilman, which is why building relationships is so important.
Still do.
The monies that we're getting in this year are largely the result of relationship-building efforts of the mayor. He led a team to develop relationships, and that benefits Harahan greatly. But we can thank Paul Johnson for
Correct.
plugging a hole 5, 6, 7 years ago, and we got 10 or so new vehicles in a very short period of time. So-
Chief LaPree's prepared to buy a few vehicles. We can't get them.
Right.
We can't physically get the vehicles.
I loved your presentation.
So I think right now we've got, what, $250,000 of cash
yeah.
available and committed to buying new vehicles. The chief hasn't been able to find them.
I
The
went to the-
leasing companies have bought them all up.
The leasing company's buying everything up because that's how they make their money. But I did go down to the police fleet expo, which was at the convention center. I was able to meet with the Chevy people, the Ford people, and they're telling me that the bids are coming out in November. The state contract bids are coming out in November, and that if we place the order, we'll hopefully get them by the first quarter, maybe beginning of second quarter of next year, because they're only going to be producing them for the next, once they start them, 10 to 12 weeks from what I understand. But I appreciate the council. I appreciate everything y'all are doing for me. It's made it easy for me. Like I say, I'm not a politician. Maybe I'm not the most polished person to talk, but I love these guys for this police department. They love the city. I love my city, and I think we just need to all continue to work together and move forward. But if we want to protect ourselves, we have to invest in ourselves. And I heard Parish President Cynthia Lee, and so did Tim. We were at a function, and she said, if you want the good things in life, you got to invest in yourself. So I appreciate y'all, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief. Chief St. Cyr, would you like to say something? Okay. Councilman Asbro?
No report.
Wait, are we skipping executive session?
No, we just had.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Councilman Asbro, Councilman Buddy?
No report.
Councilman Chatelain?
Chief, you could verify, I think if we go to East Jefferson, you give blood anytime under Officer Mitchell's name.
Yes.
I know it's Officer Mitchell's dad, but I believe
Right.
he's a retired Jefferson Parish fire captain or something as well.
I believe
correct?
so. I'm not.
Yeah, he
sure,
was,
but-
yeah. So it'd be under David Mitchell Senior,
Right.
but you could go to Jefferson Parish, East Jefferson
Correct.
Blood Bank, anywhere. You don't have to wait for a certain time, but when you go, if you just memo his name, they will get credit for replenishing the
For the
blood that
next
he
month,
used.
that'll be available for the next month, and then we'll have to call for another one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Councilman Johnston?
Well, the only thing I want to mention is that tonight we asked for people interested in the Planning and Zoning Board and the Variance Board, the Board of Adjustments, to try and get volunteers to give us their names so we could present them to the board. Guys, the Board of Adjustment is an autonomous board. They only have 3 people showing up at the meetings, and it's a 7-board member. You got 3 people showing up, the people have lost interest. Autonomous board, in other words, if they make a variance in your neighborhood, you may not like it, but the council can't override their decision. The Planning and Zoning Board is different. The Planning and Zoning Board, they make a zoning, what they like, they want to have a zoning, the council overrides that. We're the last say on that. So we need good people in the city interested in getting involved in our boards, Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Adjustments. Please, anybody out there interested, please call the mayor. Put your name up. We're looking for, I'm looking for myself on the Board of Adjustments is real estate people, attorneys, somebody that knows real estate, that knows the property. I mean, that's important. But also in the Planning and Zoning Board, we need people that know real estate, know property, but love the city. Because like I say, the Planning and Zoning Board is a board that we appoint people to, and we have the last say on that. But the Board of Adjustments is a very important board that we can't do nothing unless we go to court and sue them. We got to go to court. So if there's people out there interested, please call the mayor up, because we do need people for these boards. Thank you.
Councilman Riggs?
I would just like to thank everybody for showing up tonight, and Fire Chief and Police Chief, thank you for both your comments tonight, and thank you, everybody up here. I appreciate it.
I just have a quick announcement. I want to send my congratulations out to Councilman Buddy for becoming the Alliance for Good Government Legislator of the Year. And we brought home some more hardware to the great city of Harahan. Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, we've got recognized as 46th Economic Ready Development City, and we've got tons of other accolades from other departments, and it's been incredible. I mean, people are really recognizing what Harahan is doing. I mean, and it's not even just in Jefferson Parish, it's throughout southeastern Louisiana. You know, a lot of people, we get a lot of phone calls of, man, how y'all do this, how y'all do that. We work our butts off in that legislature, and it's paid incredible dividend. I mean, we have great representation there. But again, like Councilman Templet said earlier, it's about truly being a team. And I think that's what Harahan has learned how to become and learn how to thrive from becoming. So I just want to thank everybody. Have a good night. And from what I understand, we are going to go into executive session.
I got to
So,
do
Madam
pay
Clerk?
bills first.
Oh, you're going to pay bills?
Yeah.
Don't pay them.
Pay bills. Bills paid in July 2023, total expenditures $1,206,930.65. Executive session, council updates.
Move for executive session.
Okay. We're going to go into.
You want to pass?
It is 9:01. We're going to call a meeting back to order. No action was taken in executive session. Councilman Asbill?
I'd like to amend the agenda to add proposed ordinance number 2023 to first readings. It's an ordinance amending the Harahan Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 3, Section 2-134, Municipal Officer.
Okay, that's proposed ordinance 2023-23.
Yes, sir.
I just gave you.
And this is just adding it to first reading. It's real rough. I drafted it in 5 minutes while people were talking, so I might have some additional changes to it next month, but I want to get it on there so we're able to. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Asbill to take proposed ordinance 2023- from the floor. We have a second by Councilman Chatelain. And I guess we're open for public discussion. No, we're just going to add it.
I do need a unanimous vote to add this from the floor,
So we're
Councilman.
going to open for public discussion. No one coming forth. We'll now close public discussion. All in favor to
Well,
add this?
just, I'm fine with, but could you explain it one more time, please, why we're doing this? I think I know why.
Yeah, this is so that we can contract with the parish, with the sheriff, to collect our ad valorem taxes. And we're doing this from the floor tonight so that we're able to get it for first reading and have it passed in September in time for the October 1st term agreement.
So you're modifying the ordinance that says the city's going to do it to say, unless the city shall decide to enter into it.
Correct.
So if we don't enter into it, the ordinance,
We can still do it.
we do.
Correct.
Great. Good job, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Yay.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Thank you, guys.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Buddy to adjourn. All in favor?
Yay.
Kerry,
Jack.
We added to agenda for
is
first
there
reading.
supposed to be a lawsuit attached to this? I'm sorry, we adjourned,
We
right?
are adjourned. No, we're
Okay,
adjourned.
we're adjourned. Is there a lawsuit?
They don't.
Scott, have you? Scott?